Is a video on a place called Havoysund in northern Norway. Let's just zoom out a little bit. Zoom out, he says. Just to get an idea where we are. So this island here, that's Soroya. Okay, and Havoysund is north of that in here. The boats are in there, you can hire. So there's a little bit, it's just there maybe. There's a little bit of shelter there. It's very, very exposed, you notice, here. Very exposed. But it does look like there is areas where you can sort of, you can get out and do a little bit of fishing if you sort of, you really are struggling. It looks like there's a few places you can get in. Round the back here, out of the way, in here. You can do a little bit of fishing if the weather's really, really poor. So the fishing here, so we've adjusted it to in metres, and obviously anywhere sort of inshore 10 to 50 metres is where you're going to get the place. So for example, in this little bay in here, or anywhere in here, look, where it's sort of 30, 32, up to 50 metres, you can fish for a place. Coley belly or some prawns on a typical flatty rig. So let's just get into the nitty gritty of where you would go if the weather's good. All these, you can see on this map here, you can see all these little names. So look, often it ends in a grunner. So Vestergrunner, Saramangrunner, all these grunner. They're banks. They're little features. They're the little banks. We'll just zoom in on these 4 which are right out in front of the camp. There's some out the back as well. It's quite an interesting spot, really. Like I say, you need the weather. It is exposed. So if you look in this area here, for example here, you've got some shallower water, which is like a pinnacle, 36, look, 33, 35, surrounded by relatively deeper water next door. The whole area here is quite sort of shallow, really, when you compare it to 69, 72, 76. So they're quite interesting sort of places, but not as dramatic as some other spots. Let's just go a little bit. Let's say we go round the headland and we go north up this area here. What do we find there if we zoom in? Also, anywhere where there's a headland and there's a drop off, through this area here where my cursor is, when you go in here, you've got like 100, 77, 63, and then you've got this area here, look, just in front of this headland, 18.1, and then 30, 40, 50. These are the areas where you want to be drifting, this area around here. What else have we got? It doesn't show any detail close to the headland there. What's this? Starogrunners. This is what I was going on about earlier on, heading further north. So you've got 100. You've got 100 metre line here, which is very deep in terms of deep water fishing. You want to be drifting in this sort of area, just where it starts to come shallow. 77 over to a 40. These sort of areas. That's where you want to be fishing on this particular bank. Let's just zoom out a bit. That's the same process all over, really. Where you've got deep water here, look, you've got 140 and it's to a 37. 122 up to a 37. So you want to be over this area here fishing. And you've got 105 there, 37. There's lots of little... But for me, you just grab the guide as soon as you get there. I'd take some pictures of this. I would zoom in. There's the camp. I'd take pictures like this. I'd take a photograph on your phone and I'd literally go to him and say, look, what about this one here? What about that one there? He might even have a map to give to you. When I went to Loch Lines years ago, they actually gave us a chart, and I think it even had coordinates on it, and I think the waypoints were even set in the GPS, in the chart plot. So it's important that you don't waste fuel just burning around aimlessly. You want to have a game plan. My advice would be, if you're not going with an established party of people have been a few times, I would go with a guide, because you'll find yourself getting frustrated, I would imagine, getting lost in it all, just wasting your time. You really, whatever the weather's doing, you want to maximise what you can do on the day. Really, I would go. Honestly, if it's your first trip, I would just pay the extra money and go with a guide. And if you are a party who's not been before, and you do get a boat of 4 people, I would ask the guide to come with you on the first day. I would pay whatever it takes for the guide to come on board and to give you the ropes on how you run the boat, all those sort of things, and most importantly, you know, where the different types of fishing are. So you'll have, whatever happens, if you get in a model and you run out of ideas, you can default back to what the guide done on the first day. You know, there's all those sort of things. You know, you don't want to be, because this is a big, expansive area here, and there's literally hundreds of different places you can search. Would be brilliant, and you'd catch some amazing fish. So, but you've got to be realistic. What your capabilities are in a little aluminium boat. I know they've got a big, fast engine, but you don't want to be wasting a lot of money on fuel. So if you click on this tells you how far things are. So that's 3 miles. It's not too bad. You just need the weather. 5 miles. Yes, you can go out here and that on a nice calm day and think, oh, it isn't marvellous, but you're going to get one hell of a fuel bill. You really are. But I'm not being funny. Some of the best fishing you'll find is we're just close to where you are, close to where the camp is, which is just in here. So if the wind's coming from the north or the northwest, then all that area is screwed. But if you come out the back here, there'd be some place fishing and messing around in here. Some quite deep water here, look. This headland here would be worth a try. If the wind is really bad, you'd be able to scoot to here. You may be able to do a quick dash round the headland here and get round down here out of the way if the wind's bad, and you might be able to fish down this stretch along here. You might even be able to get some banks here. You see that one's right down here, Grunner, Fjorden. Deep water. Be surprised, these produce some good fish as well. I remember in Lork Lines we went to a sort of a similar sort of patch. The wind was up. It was a known mark, and we the first few days we just ignored it because it's so close to the camp. We just thought that was just a waste of time. But in the middle of the week we defaulted to it due to the weather, and we found the fishing there was the best fishing we ever had. Was right there. Couldn't believe it. Haddock, cod, just simple sort of just going down with a like one of them Norwegian banana perks, like 250 gram. Just going down with that on its own. Cod, haddock. So yeah, don't underestimate the little spots which are close to where your camp is. It does. You think, oh, you know, let's go for it. Let's go for these mega spots. If the weather allows you, then that's fair enough. But you'd be surprised what you ignore when you get there. And some of the best spots are really close. I'm just thinking it's already, what I'm trying to say is it's already a very expensive holiday for what it actually is, and the hidden cost is the fuel running around. And those, they've got quite big engines, they're 150s. So if you get an inexperienced crew who don't give a damn, you get stuck with one hell of a fuel bill at the end. Alright, you would have had a blast, quite literally. But I'm just sort of, you know, you just got to be a little bit, I would say anyway, if that was me, I'd be a little bit sort of sensible, try and be sensible over it. But that's the problem, you see, you get excited and get carried away, and before you know it, you're sort of racing along at 30 knots, 15 miles out, going, oh well, they only live once. Yeah, why not? Yeah, so there's some good marks in here, look at all these ones in here. So it'd definitely be worth, on one of the days, you know, maybe towards the end of the week, depends what the weather's doing, you know, to investigate these areas here. the guide might say, you know, ask the guide where you can get a place. He might say in here is the hot spot. These shallow bays in here, just drifting with your flatty rigs, with a bit of coaly belly or some shrimp if you got it from the supermarket. There might be an area where it's particularly good for coalfish. Ling might hang out. Ling generally quite deep, but they don't excite me that much. They're like a poor man's cod. Used to catch loads off Guernsey. They're okay eating, but I wouldn't be bothered about taking a lot of them home, personally. Halibut you'll run into just fishing for cod on your shags. There's literally it's a fisherman's paradise, mate. Isn't it? It really is. You know, there's so many decent spots to fish, so many different banks to go. You know. Yeah, I hope the guides are truthful and they're not just sort of saying, oh, you know, try these extreme ones. I hope they're sort of, it looks really good right on your doorstep. Anyway, it's a little taste of Havoysund there.